I wouldn't have particularly picked a Merlot to demo. We've always been a bit of a, how would I say, I have a reputation for being a little bit on the cheap side, being a little bit of a Marmite machine.
I gave a Norfolk born and bred farmer a Merlot for 30 minutes. This is his reaction.
It's power! So Owen, you've just had about half an hour driving the Merlot for the first time. What are your impressions of it?
Genuinely quite impressed with it, to be fair. I haven't driven a side boom for quite a long time. At work we've got a pivot steer, so it was nice to be back in one. Yeah, it seems to be a very good machine. The power is remarkable for the size of machine it is. It will climb a heap of wood chip like nothing else. Really.
Yeah.
It is.
You don't tend to do a lot of wood chip pushing, but
No, but the fact that it was sort of, if you see in the other clips, it's sort of like I've stopped because I've chickened out of it, not because it stopped climbing. It was.
And of course all of that was without the diff lock and stuff like that, weren't it?
Without the diff lock, just keeping it in low range. Yeah, to drive it, it's lovely to drive. There's a couple of sort of niggly little things with it, really. I mean, the forward reverse on the back of the joystick for me isn't quite placed as well as it might be. I find it a bit weird that you've got a tortoise and a hare switch for the ranges, but when you go into the screen it's a 1 and a 2, which seems a bit. I think the hydraulics on this particular machine are a bit lively, and they really ought to be turned down a touch. I mean, I don't know if that's possible on one of these, or whether you just got to go and tweak the pump a little bit.
I don't know, I'll ask Tim.
They seem a little bit keen, but the auto revs, I mean, I've just shoved up that heap of wood chip and I haven't touched the brake pedal or an inch pedal once. It's all been done on the transmission. Yeah, she's nice. Cab finish is pretty good. The steering wheel for me personally could adjust a little bit more than it does, but if you say that that's where the brake reservoir is, that's probably why it doesn't. It's comfy, its visibility is remarkably good, given it's a 3.5 ton machine, and it's all very compact. There's not a lot to it.
Yeah, it's got a good bit of bite for the size, isn't it?
It has. I mean, there's not. I mean, you look at stuff like that. That is built. There's no messing about with that. It's all very solid. It's not like tilly-willy little bits of plastic. It's got plastic on it, but it's pretty damn strong plastic.
Going back to the mudguards though, this is something that I've already liked, because most of our teleporter uses on this yard is pushing up the wood chip. Yeah. You get against that wall with the JCB and that, and the mudguards were fixed to the position of the wheel, so they'd follow the wheel. Yeah. Forever pushing and bending the mudguards and the plastic because you're hitting against the wall. But these ones are fixed to the axle, which just feels a lot nicer for what most people would probably be doing, and that is getting alongside the edge of the shed to get the last bit out.
Well, if you so anything, but grain, you're always trying to get alongside. So yeah, you don't. And on the shed, the mudguards are actually slightly inside the line of the machine, which is
As well as these mirrors here, they're inside the line of the machine as well, where a lot of them do hang out as well, don't they?
Yeah, we do. I mean, again, if I was going to be extra picky with it, I'd have said they could have been slightly bigger on both sides, to be fair.
Yeah.
But I think that's like the other things, like possibly the other detracting factors I've said. It wouldn't put me off having it. You'd get used to it. It's like you, as I say, with where the forward reverse switch is, the ranges, mirrors, that kind of stuff. It wouldn't. After you'd driven it for a week, you wouldn't care. It's a bit like that, really. But you just look at that. It's neat. It's tidy. It's well thought out. You're not going to struggle servicing it. You're not going to be too fussed when it shreds the fan belt. It's easy. Coolant, hydraulics, cooling pack.
It's all very visible, isn't it? You know, serviceability is there.
Yeah, you can't fault it, to be honest. And this is very genuinely the first time I've ever driven a Merlot, and impressed with it. Really, really impressed with it.
Have you got much thoughts on the data tag idea, like that idea and principle on it?
Honestly, for most people, I'd have said that's a little bit gimmicky. I could see if you were going to go down the route of having everything Merlot, then you may get a bit of a benefit from it. I mean, if you say there's no price difference, then yeah, I'm just not 100% sure I see that much benefit to having it, although it's nice.
It's a nice idea.
It's a nice idea. I'm not sure there's, for day-to-day usage, I'm not sure there's that much benefit to be gained from it, but if it works, it works, and if you like it, you like it. So
yeah,
it should be one of those things, really. The other thing I'd say is, obviously, because it's daylight and you can't really test this out, if you're going down the road with that bucket on the front at night, you're obviously never going to see those lights.
No, not at all.
So how they work that one out, I don't know, and we can't really test that. Well, not now anyway.
No, it's a lovely day.
Exactly.
Not lovely enough to drill, but lovely enough to play with other toys.
Oh, it's too wet. It's far too wet. These therapies too wet. It's nice. This is a fully suspended cab, isn't it?
No, this isn't the suspended cab at all.
Is it not?
No, you can get it as an optional extra.
Oh, right, okay. She's just on rubber mounts, which is not...
Yeah. Even though you said like the hydraulics a bit active and it does rattle you a little bit.
I wouldn't, not badly, not by any means.
No.
Not by any means. I personally, when I'm driving any form of machinery, I like having it all set up quite low down, because for me to be relaxed all day, you like your shoulder down low, you want your elbow down low, you want to be nice sitting in the machine, I'm relaxed, sat back here, and you want your joystick nice and easy to hand. You don't, and this is, I have a bit of a criticism of other makes, New Holland being one, of where they insist where you sit with your elbow up here somewhere.
Yeah.
But here you're quite nice, but for me personally, that joystick wants to be a ½ inch lower down, and then you'd be about perfect. But if you look on the back of here, I don't know if you could just quite see that, where that is, this here's your forward reverse toggle.
Yep.
And if you're sat here with my hands, which are not the biggest, it has to be said, but you're sat here and you've got your grip on your joystick here, to get your finger up to there to do that is a little bit of a stretch. So you end up driving it sort of like that.
Which isn't quite a full relaxed at the bottom there, is it?
Yeah, it's not really possibly how they've designed it to be. I mean, again, you'd get used to it, but that could be a little bit better if we're brutally honest. But overall, it is, and you're saying, the other thing I'll say about it is a bit of a shame that the wheels don't centre themselves if you switch from 4-wheel steer to 2-wheel steer.
Yeah, I do have to agree with that.
That is a bit that definitely could be better. But say everything else, it's all quite relatively self-explanatory. It's yeah. But if you're 15-20 grand cheaper than JCB, I'd have said you'd have one of these, and you wouldn't regret it. You wouldn't probably go back to one. If you're 5 grand less than a JCB, I'm not sure it'd be quite so easy. There'll probably be things on a JCB that are a little more refined. So yeah, I think one of these, to drive it, to use it, it's lovely. And it really is. If anyone was thinking of changing a teleporter, having just driven this one, I would recommend you demoed one, because it is.
It's opened your eyes for sure, hasn't it? This is the most gobsmacked I've seen you for a little while on the demo.
I wouldn't have particularly picked a Merlot to demo. They've always been a bit of a, I would say, I have a reputation for being a little bit on the cheap side, being a little bit of a Marmite machine. There's round here, there is a bit of a strong following for them, and people that like them all like them. But people who've never driven one wouldn't have even batted an eyelid at it, because you'd have driven a JCB or a Manitou or Kramer as coming in now. But this is worth a serious consideration on it. But say the only snag of this would be, in my opinion, would be how they price it compared to a JCB. If you're significantly cheaper, then I think it's bordering on a no-brainer. This is lovely to drive. It does anything you would ever want it to do and more.
And this is actually quite a basic machine. It's got boom suspension, air seat, and a couple of other bits. But apart from that, this is actually quite the bottom spec machine. But considering it's bottom spec, call it bottom spec, you know what I mean? It's the lower end of the spec options.
Absolutely.
It's got the comforts, it's got the usability, and it is rough and ready, and off she goes.
Yeah, I'd say if you went out and bought this machine, providing it was reliable, I don't think you'd regret it. I think you'd enjoy it, you'd drive it, you'd use it, you'd abuse it, and I think from what I could see of it, I think it would stand it. I mean, say the Deutz engine, they've been around for a long time. That's not very new technology. There's nothing particularly that you'd be sort of, ooh, that's a bit untried and tested. But sure, here it's all been around before. There's not, yeah. I think it's quite, serviceability looks excellent. The only thing I would say, I wouldn't want one of the pipes in the boom to blow, because that looks like a very big job. But
in the same breath, every teleport is now inside the boom anyway.
I was going to say, but I don't think that's particularly a Merlot issue.
It's not really a fair mark against it, is it?
No.
Considering everybody else is.
Exactly. I'd say, having been involved in taking them out of the boom for JCB, that is, everyone's got that problem.
Yeah, Kramer as well. I've done Kramers.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I'd say I'm used to driving a JCB TM310 pivot steer, which is a perfectly acceptable machine. Say it's got the usual pitfalls of pivot steers. It'll be good in some areas, not so good in others. This seems to me like a very, very good all-rounder. Yeah, it'd be interesting to see how a JCB or a Kramer equivalent is to drive, but the first impressions of this, pretty damn good, really. Pretty damn good.
Could you give it a score out of 100?
Out of 100?
I know, unfair question, because you've only had about half an hour with it.
Out of 100, where would I put you out of 100? I would probably give it an 80.
Around the 80 mark.
I would probably put it around the 80 mark.
I think that's very fair.
I don't think she's 100 out of 100. I think there are a couple of things. Say that where that forward reverse lever is, the visibility driving forward with that big bucket on the front is piss poor, and you would be driving around with a bucket in the air because you just cannot see where you're going. If you drive around with buckets or muck grabs or pallet forks, that isn't a problem, but that bucket is a big bucket.
It is a very big bucket.
And that does hamper visibility somewhat. So yeah, I'd have said about 80 out of 100. She's a very nice machine, she is very good, and say if that price comes in significantly less than a JCB, then yeah, I don't particularly see a reason why you wouldn't have one. Yeah, so if they can back them up, then yeah, can't complain.